getting married in New York. I'm getting married, guys. And welcome to my New York City wedding venue tours video. I love looking at beautiful venues and imagining my dream wedding there. I'm also fulfilling an absolute dream of mine to get married in New York. I, like so many of you, grew up watching wedding movies based in New York like 27 Dresses, The Wedding Planner, Bride Wars, like Carrie Bradshaw getting married in New York, and just so many more. And I always pictured that one day that would be me. My grandpa Nell, before he passed away, said to me when I was a little girl, one day you're going to be all grown up, living in New York City, you're gonna have your big successful job, and one day a guy is going to ask you to marry him, and you're going to say no. And thankfully to Lyle, I did not say no, but I did say no to other guys before I finally found Lyle. He is the love of my life. I cannot wait to marry him. And he's like my Prince Charming. He's just the perfect guy. So I've been dreaming about this day ever since I was a little girl, and fast forward now, I am 30 years old and engaged to be a bride in New York City. So I'm going to take you guys through the entire New York City wedding venue tour process. We saw 7 wedding venue tours total in the New York City area. So I'm going to show you the venues that we toured, and I'm also going to talk about where to find New York City wedding venues, when to start looking, how the process works, and what questions you should be asking on your venue tours. So before we jump into the actual venue tours, let's talk about how to find a wedding venue and how the process works. First off, where to look. There is a lot of information out there on the internet, but I found the websites Wedding Wire, Zola, and The Knot to be incredibly helpful, as well as a quick search on brides.com, Vogue Weddings, and Harper's Bazaar. You can also go old school like I did and consult the bridal magazines. The ones that I found the most helpful were Inside Weddings, The Bridal Guide, and Manhattan Bride. Also, this book is the ultimate wedding planning guide book. I wish that I had found this right after I got engaged. So incredibly helpful, like every single step. Wedding book by Mindy Weiss. I will leave it linked in the description box. When to start looking. So a year out is a good general rule of thumb, I found. It can be as little as 9 months out or even sooner, but what we found was that in New York, most of the venues were getting booked up about a year in advance. For some of the venues that we liked, we were actually even considering a 2-year engagement because of this, because so many of them get filled up so quickly. So definitely should be the first thing on your list to start looking for after you get engaged. How the process works is that after you've done your research, you found a venue that you liked, you send them a quick email and you set up a time to come and tour the venue in person. When you arrive on the day of the tour, they will 1, introduce themselves, and then they'll 2, take you around a tour of the grounds, show you where everything is, where you can have a ceremony or reception, where everything is. And then 3, they'll sit down with you either in an office or at a table and go through everything else that you need to know. And that's a good time to pull out your list of questions and ask all of your questions. What questions you should be asking your wedding venue tours. There is such a long list of potential questions that you could ask, but the ones that I found were the most important was the rain contingency plan. So if you want to have an outdoor ceremony, what is the rain contingency plan. Ask them to show you. Do they have a tent? Do you have to get a tent? Can you set up a tent? Because if they're a venue that has weddings every day, some tents take 2 days to set up. So maybe you can't do a tent, but maybe they have a beautiful area inside where you can help hold the ceremony, but just ask them whatever the plan is. They should show you inside where the guests will arrive, where the cocktail hour would be, where you would have the ceremony, where the reception area will be. They should show you the bathrooms. They should show you the bridal suite, the groom's suite, anything else that would be included in your rental of the venue for the day. If you're lucky, there might be a wedding going on later that day, the day that you're visiting the wedding venue. In that case, they might already be setting up the tables, so you get the chance to see the linens, the glassware, the china, like the plates, everything else that they would have on the table. So my reco is to just take a quick little picture of that so you have a reference of what that looks like in case you want to bring in your own tableware, glassware, plates, napkins, all of that stuff. And another quick note is that if there is a wedding going on that day, aka they call it like a bride in the house, then you want to make sure that you're dressing like business casual, at least nice, no jeans, like try not to have open-toed shoes, that sort of thing, just to be respectful of those that are having their wedding that day. When you are in the reception area, ask them what's the typical setup that you would see in here. Where do you see the band or the DJ typically set up? Where is the bar usually set up in this room? Where do you put the tables? Just so you can get kind of a sense of the layout. Also, they should show you the bridal suite, which is where you and your bridesmaids would get ready on the day if they have one on premise. Some of them don't, and you'd have to get ready in a separate area before showing up at the venue. Also ask if there's an extra fee for you to use it, because some of them don't allow you to come earlier, and it's like an extra thousands of dollars just to be there a couple hours earlier and to only use that room. So just ask about that. If they can't show you the room because there's a wedding going on that day and the bride and bridesmaids are having the room occupied, then obviously you can't just go in and barge in on them, but ask the sales manager if they have any pictures of the room they can show you, so at least you can get a sense of what it looks like. Ask for them to show you the bathrooms so that you know that they have enough bathrooms for the number of guests that you have, and make sure that they're handicap accessible too, especially if you're inviting anyone that has a wheelchair or anything else. Make sure that they have a handicapped bathroom, and make sure that all of the areas of your day, the ceremony, the reception, everything are like wheelchair accessible. When you are driving up to the venue, take in how the entrance looks and feels. Also ask about parking. If you have a lot of people who are driving in, make sure that there's room for that. Do they have a valet? I actually took my laptop with me in my bag, and at the end when we sat down at the table, I pulled up my Excel and had my list of questions so that I wouldn't forget everything, and so that I could keep track of the answer to the question for each venue. Okay, so let's move on to the actual wedding venue tours. So just very quickly on what I was looking for in a wedding venue. I was looking for a venue that had an estate slash mansion slash castle feel to it, where I could have an outdoor ceremony, something that looked like a garden in France or Italy, and a beautiful indoor reception. I also was looking for a place that had actual guest rooms that my friends and family could stay in, so that it kind of felt like we were like all in this one big house. It would just be like a good way for everyone to get to know each other and just have a fun weekend together. We were open to the idea of having the wedding in another country or another state, such as like, you know, having it in France, but ultimately I would rather have everyone that I love and everyone that means so much to us to actually be able to come to the wedding than having it somewhere where the guest list would probably have to be cut down. So ideally we would find all of this that we were looking for in the New York area so that everyone could come. I also knew that I wanted to get married in the spring because that's when all the flowers are blooming and it feels like this sort of spring renewal, exciting kind of new feeling when everything is sunny and like getting exciting again. So the first venue is Bourne Mansion, and I really liked this one. When you drive up, it does have that estate feel with all of the pillars and the flowers. And when you step inside, it feels like you are inside someone's really nice home. And I felt like I could picture my guests arriving here. Outside, where the ceremony would be held, was absolutely breathtaking, with the huge lawn with the ocean way out in the distance. I loved all of the details with the piano, the chandeliers, the fireplace, the crown molding. And the reception area was so grand, and I loved that they had an actual stage designated area for the band. The ceilings were super high, and it just felt like a room at the plaza. The cocktail area room was darker wood with these big heavy curtains, and it just felt like you were in like an old library. They also had this lovely bright room with black and white tiles that would have been so perfect for a morning after brunch. The groom's suite was also dark wood and had very mansion vibes. The bridal suite was upstairs, and it felt very homey and cozy. I liked the couches, and I liked that it had these two vanity tables, which I thought was very lovely, and it had its own bathroom, of course, as well. All in all, I thought that the venue was beautiful and definitely close to the vibe that I was going for, but they had a lot of hidden fees, and all of their dates for next spring were fully booked. And there was really no good hotels in the area, and obviously they don't have guest rooms in the venue, so yeah. Next was the mansion at Oyster Bay. This was a cute little yellow mansion with a nice drive up. I liked, again, the black and white tiles, fireplace, and the chandelier when you walk in. They had a coat check, which was a plus, and the room with the dark wood and the piano would be where your guests would have a glass of champagne as they are arriving and waiting for the ceremony to start. The reception room was okay. It had very low ceilings. It did not have any crown molding like others that we saw, but it did have a lot of chandeliers. The outdoor area for the ceremony was nice, but not as grand as some of the others. It didn't really wow me. The stairs would be pretty for pictures, and they did have a nice room upstairs with a bar that would have been perfect for an after party. They had a tented space that also could be used for a reception. I didn't ask this, but I'm assuming you could probably get away with hanging things from the ceiling in this room, because there were sort of like these metal poles that if you wanted to do a beautiful like hanging flower arrangement, that you could actually do it on this type of ceiling, which other venues, since they're like older buildings, you can't hang anything from the ceiling. The bridal suite was cute. It had a pink couch, which is points in my book. It had its own bathroom and enough mirrors and pretty much anything that you would need to get ready. The groom's suite was more bare bones, but at least they had a designated area. Overall, this place was great, but I wasn't feeling the vibes, and you gotta feel the vibes. Now let's talk about the park Chateau. This venue is in New Jersey. It has very grand details when you walk in, with the piano, the chandelier, fireplace, and the crown molding. They do have a coat check and many different room options that could be a cocktail hour, welcome area, an after party, whatever your vision is. Outside, they do have a non-denominational chapel, so if your vision was that you wanted to get married in a church, they do have that right on the premises, and it's very bare bones inside, so you could kind of build it around whatever your vision is or your religion is. The reception area was immaculate. It was huge high ceilings, chandeliers everywhere, tons of staff. There must have been a staff member for every table, a huge dance floor. They had a really cute, they were setting up for a wedding when we got there, and they had a really cute his and hers table right at the front. The groom suite was nice, very dark wood vibes. The bridal suite was by far the best that we saw. This place was huge, so you have so much space, especially if you have a very big bridal party. you will have no problem having enough room in this space and getting ready here. I loved the little kitchen area and the table by the window where you could have your little breakfast while you're getting ready. And the hair and makeup chairs, oh my gosh, like come on. They were just so many of them. It's like there's a salon within the bridal suite. Also, the bridal suite overlooked the gardens outside. It had its own little balcony, so you could have your total princess moment as you're getting ready, just like overlooking the gardens. They didn't have any rooms to stay in, but there was a hotel literally right next door, 10 or 20 feet across. So that would have been really convenient for guests. So overall, I'm probably making this place sound really good, but it's just good on the surface. But when you really think about it, it's actually very fake. It looks like it's a super old building, but it's not. It is a brand new build in like the last 20 or 30 years, but it's built to look old. Apparently some people from the Real Housewives and like Jersey Shore have gotten married there. Also personally, I didn't really vibe with the sales manager guy there. I felt like he was very kind of up on his high horse. They have multiple sales managers at these places, so you don't have to work with him, but overall I just was not getting the vibe. I didn't like that it was fake, and it just was not the place for me. The next venue tour is Glen Cove Mansion. It had a very pretty entrance when you walk in, with the pillars and the red velvet carpet and the chandeliers and the flooring. I also love a good staircase moment, and this one had a very pretty staircase for photos. The reception room was very big. They had the typical wedding reception chairs and the typical setup with the big dance floor and the chandelier in the middle. There was also a room off to the side where the guests would come in when they arrived and just have a little glass of champagne. I thought that that looked really nice. One thing that we loved about this place was that it had a very intimate after party area upstairs. So you go up these stairs and it's very kind of cozy, like you feel like you're in someone's house at this moment. And it was like kind of low ceilings, sort of small, like perfect for an after party. They do it for like a pretty low fee. You can put on your own like playlist of music, and they serve you late night finger foods like chicken wings and french fries and that sort of thing. So I felt like we both kind of could totally picture that. They also had a really nice space for the morning after brunch, which you could host for any of your guests that are sticking around overnight. I thought that that was really nice, and you could have your own sort of private brunch area the next morning. The outdoor area was where you could have your ceremony if you wanted an outdoor ceremony. It was nice, it was fine, but when you're actually up there at the front and you're standing facing each other, like you and your groom, you're facing a brick wall and just this sort of like unfinished shrubbery that just wasn't the most pleasant look. We actually really loved this place overall. We got really close to choosing this for our wedding, but there was the really big downside was that the actual rooms in this place were not very nice. They really needed to be renovated and updated, and the hotel itself has very low ratings. I loved the idea that we could all stay in this one big house together, but I didn't want my guests to be uncomfortable in the rooms, and I didn't see myself staying in those rooms either, so it just wouldn't really have worked out. Okay, the Swan Club. This was on Long Island. This was actually the first venue that we toured, and I don't mean to be critical, but I actually felt like it left a lot to be desired. From the pictures online, it looks really nice, and even the pictures and the videos that I took of it, it looks nice. But when you actually tour, you realize that, and I feel bad saying this, but it is like a wedding mill. They just pump out weddings. They have 2 weddings at the same time. So like while your wedding is going on at one part of the building, there's another whole wedding going on in another part of the building, and you're sharing bathrooms, and it's just like, it's not like your day. It just didn't feel authentic to me. But to talk about the actual spaces themselves, the reception room was pretty big. It had some big nice windows. It was pretty standard. They did have another option for holding the reception, but it was more like a barn, so that wasn't the vibe I was going for, but if that's what you wanted, then they do have that. There was an outdoor area where you could have your ceremony, which was overlooking the water, which it was nice. It was fine, but it wasn't the like garden in Italy vision that I had. I liked the bridal suite to get ready in. I thought that it would have been fine. The staircase was very blah and not so cute for photos. All in all, we knew right away that this wasn't the place for us, and it's not a bad venue overall. It just was not the vibe that we were looking for. Ashford Estate. So this venue was in New Jersey, not too far of a drive from the city. It had a nice entranceway and a drive up, and the house itself was cute. The getting ready room is great for pictures. I like that it had these two little vanities for doing your hair and makeup. They had a barn where you could hold your ceremony, but like I said, I'm not into the barn vibe. There was another option to have the ceremony outside, which had this pretty elongated sort of rectangular pond and lots of greenery outside. It was very pretty, but it was facing the barn. The interiors of the house I liked. I liked the pillars and just in general the interior decor. The bridal suite was pretty looking, but I didn't like that it was on the ground floor so close to right where all of the guests are arriving, so you're literally just like right behind a door. And I kind of like the feeling of like being tucked away upstairs and like looking down, watching everyone arriving through the window. So I didn't like that it was like right there. But it did have lots of chairs for hair and makeup and like a kitchen space right there. It also had a pretty big library area with dark wood. It was sort of that like, you know, that like mansion library vibe. And I could see the guests sort of just wandering in there during the reception and just, I don't know, having a conversation or like a glass of something. And it had a big nice porch outside too, so if you want to have that little space you can use that as well. The reception room was huge and had these huge windows. It was big and bright, but the ceiling itself looks like a barn ceiling. It's not that like mansion or castle vibe. It's like a barn. They also had a third option to hold the ceremony also outside. It was going down to the pond, and they had more like flowers and stuff planted around there, and the pond itself was really nice and kind of serene, so I did like that. Another feature of this place is that they did have multiple guest rooms in the house. Each one was decorated differently, but they were all very nice. I think that our guests would have been very comfortable in them. They had huge bathrooms. Overall, I think that this place is a very nice venue for holding your wedding. Personally, I couldn't get past the barn look, but that is just my personal preference. And coming back to the like authenticity of the place that I was looking for, it was a new build. So, but it looked old, so it was kind of that same sort of scenario where, you know, I just want it to be like an actual old genuine building. Okay, finally we have Oheka Castle. Anyone who has read a wedding magazine or done research on looking for a castle wedding or a mansion wedding in the US has probably heard of Oheka Castle. Firstly, the drive up is unparalleled to anything else that we saw. You feel like you're driving up to a European chateau. It looks like a castle with the ivy and those huge green like shrubs on both sides. Oh, it's literally a castle. They always have the valet there, so it's just, the whole entrance is so grand. When you walk in, you are greeted by the most beautiful set of stairs where I could just picture you could just have your truly like girl in a movie moment where you walk down the stairs in your gown. You then come into this area where your guests would be greeted. They have this big table where you could put a pretty flower arrangement on it, maybe sort of like place cards or just information of what table your guests are seated at. And you know, you could even put like picture frames on the table with like pictures of your family, you know, getting married. The rain contingency plan here is unmatched, so to anything else that we saw. This was the only place that I actually felt like if it were to rain that I would rather have the ceremony inside than outdoors with a tent, because the indoor room to have the ceremony was so beautiful. It's also totally authentic. This place was built over 100 years ago, and it just has these gorgeous chandeliers and doors to the lawn outside. Outside was the space where you could have your outdoor ceremony. You can just see how beautiful and vast it is, especially with the garden in the background, and then you turn around as well and you see the house, and it's the best. This one also had a library area where the guests could wander into. They had other beautiful rooms that you could use that were part of your rental for the day that you could use for, you know, whatever your vision is. The reception room was a pretty typical wedding space with the tables all the way around the dance floor and the chandelier at the ceiling. They also have a restaurant at the hotel, of course, so it could be a great spot to hold a rehearsal dinner or some sort of a welcome event, or maybe a morning after brunch. The outdoor space of the restaurant as well, again, looks like something out of a European garden in Italy. They did allow us to see the rooms, which was a really good sign. They were just exactly what I thought that they would be. They were a nice older style castle-esque. So final thoughts. All in all, I loved Oheka Castle. As soon as I saw it, I just knew. And when you know, you know. I just 1000% knew that this is where I had to get married. I had that feeling. It was everything that I had described that I wanted before we even started looking or doing any research at all. It just checked off every single box. I didn't even know that places like this existed in the US, which for me was really big because you guys know that I love Europe. I would totally live there if I could, and something that kind of, you know, bothers me about the US is that we don't have beautiful places like this. But to me, discovering this place was like, wow, I had no idea that it was possible. And doing this whole wedding venue tour process, I realized how many beautiful places we do actually have in the US. There wasn't 1 inch of the place that I didn't like. The only downside with the place was that it does come with the price, which I'm sure you can expect for such a beautiful place. But like I said, I knew that I had to get married here and that I had to find some way to make it work. And weddings in general are expensive, so if I don't show you guys as many like clothing hauls and designer shoes and or anything like that this year, then you know why. But your wedding day is special, and for me, I am the like dreamer type bride. I've been dreaming for this day, and I really wanted it to be the most special day possible because it means so much to me. So if it isn't already obvious, the wedding venue that we picked is Oheka Castle. As soon as we signed the paperwork, I was so giddy and excited. I was jumping around like a little kid. I am just so excited for our wedding. I truly cannot believe that I am getting married at a place like this. It just feels like a dream come true. And since it's a castle and it's my dream day, my wedding is going to have total fairy tale vibes down to the flowers, the dress, the decor. So I can't wait to show you. I've already been keeping you guys updated on my weekly vlogs, so make sure that you are subscribed if you're not already so that you don't miss out on this whole fairy tale wedding planning journey. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. As always, don't forget to subscribe and check out the Fashion Squirrel as well over on Instagram. And hopefully I will see you guys next time.